So it's my pleasure to introduce our first presenter is Dr. Xiaoli Fan. Xiaoli is an assistant professor and my colleague in the Department of Resource Economics and Environmental Sociology at the University of Alberta. She earned her PhD from Cornell University. I think we've got a bit of a theme. Paswell was also a Cornell graduate. I don't know if you overlapped with Paswell, Xiaoli. She earned her bachelor's and master's degrees from Wuhan University in China, and Wuhan may ring a bell for people as a place where the COVID-19 outbreak started from. She also has research experience with the Chinese Academy of Agricultural Sciences. Xiaoli's research interests include food and agribusiness management, consumer demand, pest and pesticide management, and microbial use and anti-microbial resistance. So over to you, Xiaoli, for your presentation.
Okay, thank you so much, Brent, for the introduction and for inviting me to participate in this very short course. And today I'm gonna share with COVID-19 and the changing food consumption in China. And I'm not gonna talk about everything that's changing in the food consumption, but maybe some interesting points that I found. First, just to give everybody a look of the COVID-19 cases in China, maybe it first started in China. Maybe everybody already kind of know, but here is the numbers here. So you can see on the x-axis is the date, and then on the vertical axis are the number of cases every day. So I highlighted several dates. January 23rd is where Wuhan lockdown started, and March 10 is where most cities lift or lowered the response, emergency response level. And by April 8, the lockdown in Wuhan also ended. It's also interesting to note here that January 25th is the Chinese New Year. So you know that for Chinese New Year, where the biggest migration in human history is gonna happen, where millions of people are gonna move from different cities to their hometown, and then within 1 week or two, they're gonna go back to their working places. So that makes the COVID-19 spread a little bit more severe than it should be. And that's about the COVID-19 cases. And here is how it's affecting the China's GDP growth. Here I have the quarterly GDP growth, and you can see that in the right, very right, where you can see that I circled a number negative 6.8, where that's actually the first economic contraction since 1992. And why 1992 is because where that's China first formally established the quarterly GDP estimation. And I also highlighted 2008, where there's global financial crisis. You can see that the GDP growth is 6.4 positive there. So you can see how bad this COVID-19 is impacting China's economy. So it will be interesting to compare SARS versus COVID-19. And you can see from this table there that when I highlighted in orange where SARS started, and then you can see there's a dip in the GDP growth where it was 9.1. So that was the impact of SARS. And then you can see that after SARS ended, the economy like immediately go back. So SARS, we kind of think that it's a V shape. So once the crisis is over, economy will go back. And here is some comparison of SARS versus COVID-19. You can see that when SARS happened, there's increasing globalization, and China just joined WTO on December 2001. And at that time, the growth rate of GDP of China is around 10%. And also at that time, China's economy was only 4% of global total, and it was ranking the 6th in the world. But COVID-19, the situation is different. Started from 2018, there's the China-US trade war, and that is still affecting the relationship now. So there's also global trade protection, and China's GDP growth was around 6%, as you see in previous slides. But it's different now is because China's economy is about 16% of the global totals, and it's a second in the world. So there's discussion about whether SARS is a V-shape, about COVID-19, whether it's a V-shape or U-shape. So like the slowdown of the GDP is a little bit longer than SARS, or maybe it's a L shape that will never go back, or it takes a very long time to go back, or there might be it might be W shape where there's second wave or of the cases, and then it will impact the economy differently. Okay, so let's take a look at the total retail sales. So this is a year-over-year percentage increase. And you can see that before January 2020, it's around 8% increase. However, in January, February, the retail sales, the increase is negative 20.5%, but it's slowly recovering. So by April, it's negative 7.5%. And these are the retail sales by different category. And the red are the December numbers, and then gray January numbers, the almost darker March numbers, and then the blue are April numbers. So you can see that the catering industry are really hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic, but the food and beverages, they are okay. And it's an interesting comparison will be that the comparison between the total retail sales and the online retail sales. You can see from these slides that the total retail sales, which is in blue, it was really affected a lot by the pandemic. But however, the online retail sales, you can see there's only slightly negative growth in January, and then by April it's already positive. However, if you pay attention to online retail sales in food, you can see it's almost not affected. It's around 30% increase. So I'm gonna talk about the online retail sales a little bit more. But before that, let me discuss how the COVID-19 is back, or how COVID-19 affected Chinese buying food. So before that, here are the distribution of the channels. So the farmers market, there's more than 50%. And then the grocery stores and supermarkets are around 40%. And the fresh food e-commerce is only less than 5%. But after the pandemic, most people in urban areas, they order food online and then make cooked meals. Let me show you. This is how the farmers market looks like in China. You can see in the front is the vegetables, but in the back, those are the stores that's selling meat. And in most cases, the meat are not refrigerated. So that's how the farmers market look like. Here is a look of the supermarkets. And it didn't show here, but the eggs here are still not refrigerated, so it's not pasteurized. But in supermarkets, the meat are refrigerated and looks similar like the meat here. But what really changed during this pandemic is the fresh food e-commerce. So I have here some numbers for the increase of those online food delivery companies. And here I only listed 4, and you can see the increase are like sometimes 3 to 4 times increase. For some of them, there's 5 to 10 times increase. So there's a link here under Hema, which is owned by Alibaba. And if you, I'm not gonna show this video here today, but if you click that video, you will be able to say what a fresh food e-commerce company. They also have a store in cities. So you can say how that's look like. You will see robots delivering food and all of those contactless technologies there. And on the bottom, there's also a link to another video which is introducing the different fresh e-commerce companies. And again, I'm not showing them here, but if you're interested, you can click and see that. So people really used those food delivery companies a lot during the COVID-19. And here you will see there's basically 2 different ecosystem or two different groups here. So Alibaba and Tencent are both like very those internet giants. So it is basically those different platforms are all under these 2 big internet giants. And actually, before the pandemic, there's already some consolidation in the fresh food e-commerce in China. And now, under these 2 big companies, they were able to use very advanced technologies, and they also are able to build the logistic infrastructure. So if you're interested, feel free to click on those videos to know a little bit more. This slide is just to give you a little bit idea of the monthly active users of those fresh food e-commerce platforms. And you can say that the Hema, which is around 13.74 million active users. So they already have, these companies already have very big base of consumers. And fresh food e-commerce in China is also growing very quickly. You can see here are some of the numbers, and the growth rate is decreasing, but still it's very high. I think it's around 40%. So this pandemic really gives an opportunity for those fresh food e-commerce platforms to have more users to try their service. And there's some discussion of what's going to happen after the pandemic. And the response is that a lot of the price-sensitive users, they probably will go back to whatever they were using. And you can see here in this slide, on the left is the users before COVID-19, and on the right is the users during the pandemic. You can see that on the right, there's more users of more elder users. So those people tend to be more price sensitive. However, some of them, if they are focused on the premium goods, and if they tried this online platform, then they tend to stay. So it's really an opportunity for those fresh food e-commerce platforms. Here are the percentage of different tiers of cities, and you can see that the fresh food e-commerce are more popular in the first and new first tier cities, while in the fourth and fifth tier cities, the coverage is relatively low. So those people in those cities, they still tend to go to either the farmer's market or a supermarket for purchasing food. There's a lot of policies and measures that has taken by the Chinese government, both central government and local government. And I'm not going over them one by one, but here we have a very good source, which is article from FAO on the impact of local food systems on COVID-19. So if you're interested in details, you can click on the link here, and there's more detailed introduction there. So in terms of the prices, we can see here in January and February, the inflation is highest, about 5.4%, but by April, it already dropped to 3.3%. So it's really already recovering. Chinese economies are already recovering. Here are the wholesale food basket price index. So this is the index by the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs. And this index includes a lot of food, both grains and vegetables. And you can see there's increase in the index around January and February, but it's already decreasing here in April and May. So what about livestock prices? So here I set the prices in December 2019 to be 100. And you can see the prices for different livestock products. And I'm gonna go over them one by one. So first is pork. So you can see that the pork prices is actually decreasing after February. It first increased a little bit in January. So this is the kind of not trivial, because something happened in 2019, and some of you might be aware of the African swine fever. So this slide the prices year over year. So you can see that the price in 2019 is already increasing. So there's already a lot of increase in the pork prices by then. So then when the COVID-19 come, actually the pork prices didn't increase that much. So this slide is the price and also the trading volume. So the red line is the current period price, and the yellow or the orange line is the price in previous periods. And the green bar are the current are the last year's trading volume, and the blue ones are this year's trading volume. And you can see that this year in February, the trading volume is really low. So compared to last year, there's really less pork consumption. So a summary here is that pork, which is 40 to 50% of the country's protein consumption, the wholesale prices first increased, but then it decreased. This is mainly because of the high prices during the African swine fever outbreak. And also the government also released those frozen pork reserves to the market. How about poultry and eggs? And you can see that eggs, the price decreased the most. It's almost 30% compared to the prices in December. For chicken, it also decreased, but not as much as eggs. So here it's really interesting to see that the red line, the price this year, when it comes to the price in the same period last year in around October 2019, the prices this year is higher. But however, by February, the price already is much lower than the previous periods. And this is for eggs. How about live poultry? So live poultry, here you can see also the prices this year is decreasing during the pandemic and also after the pandemic. However, the trading volume was not affected a lot if you compare to pork. So poultry and egg, they take the biggest hit, and it's around 20 to 30% of China's total protein consumption. And the prices for eggs fell more than live poultry. So this is mainly because of the short life cycles of chickens and also the minimal shelf life of eggs. So remember I explained that eggs in those farmers market, they are not pasteurized. So it's just eggs selling there. It's not refrigerated. So this makes eggs take the biggest hit. How about beef and lamb? You can see here their prices are relatively stable during the outbreak. The trading volume is much lower compared to previous periods. So the blue one are this year's trading volume and green ones are last year's trading volume. So same thing with lamb, a little bit better than beef. And I also have some slides about the prices of vegetables, and you can see the price is decreasing a lot in April. And fruits, the prices didn't change very much. So here I'd like to point out one point here is the frozen food items. So traditionally, people don't consume frozen food items a lot just because of the culture, or in rural areas, some families still don't have fridge. However, during the COVID-19 outbreak, there's a lot of people stock on frozen fruit items. And this has something to do with the cold chain logistic networks in China. So it's only about 40% of the total meat supply in China. However, in North America, it's more than 90%. And pre-cooled fruit and vegetables in China, it's only about 10%. So this COVID-19 outbreak might bring the opportunity for future government support for the development of the cold chain logistics. And for that, the Chinese consumers, they might be able to enjoy more vegetables during winter or during summer times from different areas of China, and also this cold chain network by bring opportunities for the increase of the frozen food market. And we see a lot in North America that during the outbreak, a lot of people changed or increased their plant-based food consumption. And these are some numbers for China, but it's for 2019. And you can see here for plant-based milk, that number, it didn't mean much here. Is because Chinese have the culture of drinking soy milk. So if you ask them, a lot of like 82% of people already tried. But there might be opportunity here for other plant-based products here. And after this outbreak, people might start to thinking about consuming less meat and more plant-based food. So there's also opportunity here for the increase of that segment. So just a summarize of some of the points is that after the pandemic, there will be a boom of the China's fresh e-commerce channels, but that might be limited by the cold chain network. So the fresh food e-commerce companies, they need to really do their supply chain well, and also depend on the cold chain. And there's a quicker shift. There will be a quicker shift toward digitalization and automation. This is already happening in the fresh food e-commerce platforms, and because of those two internet giants, and they have the ability to apply those advanced technologies in the fresh food delivery. And I also expect to see the acceleration of the cold chain network development. And with all those, I think in the future, there will be improved food safety and quality in China. And also Chinese consumers, they might prefer to consume healthy food. And there's also opportunities for frozen food and plant-based protein consumption in China. So with that, that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.